I don't think I have to introduce myself, as Jakub did an excellent job with that. So first, thank you for coming along. It's a real pleasure and an honor to be here with you all, and I hope you enjoyed the time together. So let's go straight to my topic, which is EI and BI equal growth. Please don't worry, you are in the right room. This is not a topic on science. We're just talking on how we can increase our confidence so that we can enhance our growth potential. So what is the first thing that comes to mind when I ask what emotional intelligence is for you? Any takers? Empathy. Anyone else? Listening to other needs, yes. Anyone else? So there are many words that come to mind to people when asking what emotional intelligence is. And it depends very much from your background, the culture, the environment you're in, at that moment in time of that specific situation. They all have one common denominator. It's about how we manage and master our own emotions and how we relate to the emotions of others. So how important it is to have emotional intelligence and how you go about developing if you don't feel comfortable enough that you've already reached that stage where you actually manage your emotion. Now, there is an awful lot of literature out there in the internet, and I'm not going to presume to reduce it in 5 minutes talk here. So I would urge you to go and look elsewhere. And there are many tests as well that you can do online, that you can do throughout your training, just to validate at which stage of your maturity level you're at. But what I wanted to do is to give you a few pointers, just for you to think about at what stage you think you are at this point in time. And these are a few pointers. How do you manage and how you comfortably manage difficult situation? Do you rush into judgment before you have the facts? Are you happy to leave the spotlight and the limelight to somebody else, or do you want that to be on you all the time? How comfortable and conscious you are on areas of development for yourself. So these are all pointers that will, by reflecting on them, you will figure out which stage, if you're comfortable enough and you're tuned enough with your emotion already, or you're not there yet and you need to study and develop more. So the good news is that whereas intellectual quotient and personality very rarely change over time, emotional intelligence is something that you can train yourself on up to the point when you really feel you've mastered that. Why would you want to do that, you might ask? Well, the data here tells you why, and it's pretty self-explanatory, right? So we all want to do this. But I will go a little step further, and I will say because emotions drive people, and people drive performance. So let me tell you a little story from my career. At one point, early stage of my career, I wanted to manage a technical team. And I knew that that was going to be a challenge for me, primarily because at that point, I didn't really have a great technical background. But I wanted to push myself, and I knew that it was going to be a stretching goal, but still took the challenge on. So I landed in this team, all male, all highly technical, lots of testosterone in that room. And here I come, the little Italian lady, different culture with very little technical background. You can imagine the type of reception I had, right? And how difficult it was for me to just gain all of that. So how did I do it? How did I approach the topic? Bit by bit, I exposed my vulnerability. I did share with them, look, I don't have enough technical knowledge, but I want you to become my teachers. So slightly reversing roles, where instead of me managing them, they were sort of now had the ownership and the accountability to teach me. I showed a lot of empathy by active listening. I understood what made them tick outside of work, or what type of hobbies, family, sports, activities they had outside that. And I was very open from a leadership point of view in exposing my plans for them, where I wanted to take the team to, what was their role in it, and what they could benefit from it. Bit by bit, I found the key to connect to each one of them. And when you manage to get that connection, you build trust, then you gain the respect. When trust and respect get together, what do you have? Terrific support, right? So to these days, those were one of the best team I've managed to these days. Excellent. So let's go to the second part of my crazy equation, BI, biases, and our lying mind, as I say here. Let's take a look at this very brief video. I hope it works. Oops. Making it work?
Are you seriously considering her as a candidate?
Just don't trust her.
She's a woman.
She's a woman.
This is a man's
She's
job.
clearly not educated.
Really not. Does she even speak English?
That's not me. I'm not like that.
Do you recognize them? Have you experienced any of them? There are so many biases all around us. A bias is not having a lack of a neutral viewpoint. But equally, I would dare say how easy it is to have a neutral viewpoint. If you think about our beautiful brain is presented with 11 million pieces of information at any one point in time, and it can only compute 40 of that. So what does he do? He uses cognitive shortcuts based on past experience to make assumptions. So we can't really escape them. Not only we can't escape them, but they are an intrinsic part of how we grow up. They're part of background, they're part of the social context, they're part of the political views, the ethical ones that we have. So what do we do and how do we manage them? So the first thing to bear in mind is how easy it is for us to recognize them. Yeah? So we acknowledge that they're all around us and we can't really escape them. So the next step will be, how do we recognize them? And when we recognize them, the training for us is being able to differentiate between the fact that bias is referring to, social, ethical, political, cultural, etc., versus the emotion that bias is triggering in us, which is the one that we will respond to. So once we manage to differentiate facts from feelings, we'll be able to get in control of the situation, and we'll be able to respond to it rather than impulsively reacting. Let me share another anecdote from my past. I was managing a very complex outsourcing deal throughout months, nearly a year of it. And during the last meeting, where I wanted to have my leadership ratifying all the different proposals that I put together, the view forward, how to sign off the deal, how to implement it in the smoothest possible way, how to get the benefit out of these deals. My leadership at that point in time listened to all of the facts, the documentation I provided, and very gratefully thanked me for all the hard work that I'd done up to that point. I had sort of worked tirelessly over weekends. I put my family a little bit aside for that specific project. It was now time for me to take a well-deserved rest, and somebody else could take it forward for me and close the deal. You recognize the bias, right? So I had two choices. I could sit down and let somebody else take over from me and close the deal that I worked so hard for, or I could push back, and in a very controlled way, I could challenge them. Which one did you think I chose? Surely the second one, right? So in the right way, by using emotional intelligence and therefore sensing that I was going to walk into a very difficult meeting, I had prepared very hard a good, robust, strong documentation. I knew at that point when was the right moment to interfere and support my documentation with, and I could then sense the reaction that I got from the audience. So needless to say, by managing the situation and controlling my feelings, I managed to win my case. So the ability to stay calm and in control is highly, highly regarded, not just in business, but everywhere in social life. And the more you train yourself in recognizing the emotions that trigger the impulse, the more sort of in control you'll become of yourself, or your career, your meetings, your management. So now the next step that we need to do is we've developed emotional intelligence, we know what they are, we mastered it, we recognize the bias so we know how we navigate through them, then we need to build our brands. What is your brand? So Jeff Bezos say that your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And now I want to ask, how do you want to be remembered? So every time you go to a meeting, you don't want to say, hey guys, take a good look at me and keep that image in your memory so that you can remember who I was, what party did I have in that meeting. That's not something we could do, right? So we need to develop some mechanism to allow to have the same outcome. So focus on what are the things that matters to you the most. What do you want to be remembered? What do you stand out for? What do you want to be remembered for? You want to be remembered as the lady with the crazy ideas, or the one that joins the dots, even though sometimes they might not be super visible, or the ones that really think outside the box. I know it's a very used phrase, but something that you think is that you have a very innovative, disruptive way of thinking. Somebody that takes risk. Whichever way you think you feel more comfortable with, whichever way you want to portray yourself to others, that's why you start building your brand is for. And remember, as I put it there, it's not what you say, it's what they say it is. It's what people in the room will say about you. So why want to do it? Because you've mastered your emotion, you know what you stand for, and therefore you become more in control of keeping your emotion in checks. You're more aware of where you want to focus on, what you want to stand for, and therefore it should be easier then to understand which brand do you want to portray to the others. How do you want to be standing for? However, be also careful for that nagging thought at the back of your mind that we all have. Ooh, you're missing 4 of the 25 skill set listed in that job. This is too much for you. Don't go there. Ooh, this is a great project. It's fantastic. It's going to give you a fantastic opportunity. It's a little bit too risky. No. Don't go there. You see where I'm going with that, right? So my few takes away for you are learn from the setbacks. Don't hide behind excuses. It's always somebody else's fault. It's never yours, right? One thing that I urge you is to never, ever take the feedback personally. What you do, the work that you do, does not define who you are. Only you define who you are, right? Work very hard for what you want. Nothing really that is worth of something is ever going to be offered to you on a silver plate. This is life, right? It's not just work. And second and third, be confident in your ability. I think I've seen so many girls and so many women that have got terrific potential when they can become more relaxed, when they started talking to me. But then you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in the ability that you have and the skills that you have. The one thing for you to consider as well is you need to start to become more comfortable, which hopefully by mastering your intelligence, you will be able to do so, and having a personal brand, to say you have to push yourself forward. You have to feel confident in taking some risks, right? And learn from the setbacks. It always starts from you, yes, and you reflect on how you have behaved, how you managed that situation. And even if you've done fantastically well, even if you had a very good feedback, always think, what can I do better next time? What can I change? What can I improve? Or what can I do differently? I just want to leave you for the last few minutes on a quote that I really have treasured most of my career and professional and personal life. Life is truly like a camera, and I have learned so much from this quote. Focus on what is important for you. There are always going to be negatives. If there are jobs, roles, or situation, opportunities that don't make you feel comfortable, don't stay on it. There is a beautiful world out there, and it's up to all of us, all of you, to go and find what that perfect shot is for you, so that you can focus and develop that. Lastly, thank you so much for coming along. It's been a real pleasure to have you here, and good luck to you all. Thank you.